Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my channel, Fluent Pro Hub.
Hello and welcome to Fluent Pro Hub. I'm James.
And I'm Olivia.
Have you ever, been speaking English and suddenly your mind just goes completely blank?
Oh, absolutely.
It's like, you know the words, you've learned the grammar, but right when you need them, poof, they vanish.
Like trying to remember something you know, but just can't quite grasp.
Exactly. Someone asks, how was your weekend? And you're like, weekend. What's a weekend?
It happens to the best of us, even those who consider themselves pretty fluent.
Right. So it's reassuring to know it's a common issue, and that's exactly what we're going to deep dive into today. Why our brains seem to short circuit when we try to speak English, and more importantly, how can we stop it from happening?
You can be so frustrating, right? You're making progress, feeling good about your English, and then bam, mind blank.
Totally. So let's get into it. What causes these mental blocks when we're trying to speak? What do the sources say?
Well, one major factor is good old nervousness. You know, that feeling of pressure to perform, to speak perfectly.
Oh yeah, the pressure can be intense. So how does that actually affect our brains?
When you're nervous, your body goes into fight or flight mode. It's a natural stress response.
Makes sense. But how does that affect our ability to speak?
Well, when that happens, your brain's resources get redirected. Blood flows away from your prefrontal cortex, the part responsible for complex thinking, like language.
So it's like our brain is too busy freaking out to focus on finding the right words.
Exactly. It prioritizes survival over smooth conversation. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, takes over.
Wow, so there's actually a physiological reason for those mental blanks. It's not just in our heads.
Right. And then there's the whole issue of overthinking, which often goes hand in hand with nervousness.
Oh, tell me about it. Trying to construct the perfect sentence in your head before you even open your mouth.
Yeah, you're so focused on grammar and avoiding mistakes that you end up getting stuck.
And by the time you finally crafted the perfect sentence, the conversation has moved on.
Exactly. You miss the moment. And all that effort for nothing.
It's a real catch-22, isn't it? So nervousness and overthinking, two big culprits. What else contributes to these mind blanks?
Another key factor is, simply put, lack of practice. You know, if you don't regularly use your English muscles, they tend to weaken.
Just like any skill, right? Use it or lose it.
Exactly. The more you practice speaking, the stronger those neural pathways become, and the easier it is to recall words and phrases quickly.
So those occasional English lessons aren't enough. We need to be actively using the language on a regular basis.
Absolutely. And this ties in with another common habit, translating from your native language.
Oh yeah, I've definitely been guilty of that. It's like my brain is trying to run a double translation program.
And that takes time, leading to those awkward pauses and hesitations. Plus, not all words and phrases have direct translations, which makes things even trickier.
So we've got nervousness, overthinking, lack of practice, and translating in our heads. That's quite a lineup. But how do we actually combat these issues and prevent those dreaded mind blanks?
Well, the sources offer some really helpful strategies. And the first one might seem obvious, but it's crucial. Think in English.
Sounds simple enough. But how do we actually rewire our brains to think in a different language?
Start with small, everyday thoughts. Instead of thinking, what should I have for breakfast in your native language, try thinking, what should I eat this morning in English?
So it's about making a conscious effort to switch our internal monologue to English.
Right. And the more you do it, even with simple things, the easier it becomes. Your brain starts to build those connections naturally.
It's like creating new neural pathways for thinking directly in English, bypassing that translation step. What other strategies do we have?
This one might seem counterintuitive, but it's really important. Embrace mistakes. Don't be afraid to make them.
I think that fear of making mistakes is a huge barrier for many English learners, myself included. We want to sound perfect, but that just ends up holding us back.
Absolutely. Remember how kids learn their first language? They make tons of mistakes, but they just keep talking, and eventually they get it right.
So we need to channel our inner child and just dive in, mistakes and all.
Exactly. See mistakes as opportunities to learn and improve. The more you speak, the less those mistakes will matter.
Easier said than done, I know, but so important. So think in English, speak more, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. What else can we do to prevent those mind blanks?
Filler phrases are a great tool to buy yourself some thinking time. You know those little phrases native speakers use to fill the gaps in conversation?
Like, and but I thought those were bad habits.
Well, using too many of those can be distracting. But strategic use of phrases like, let me think, that's a good question, or, well, can be really helpful.
So it's about using those phrases purposefully to give our brains a moment to catch up.
Exactly. They keep the conversation flowing and give you a few seconds to gather your thoughts.
It's a much more natural and less awkward way to handle those moments of mental pause.
Right. And another tip that might surprise you, slow down.
Really, I always thought speaking quickly was a sign of fluency.
It's a common misconception. Speaking too fast often leads to more mistakes and can increase your anxiety, making it harder to think clearly.
So it's about focusing on clarity and accuracy, not speed.
Exactly. Take your time, breathe, and speak at a pace that feels comfortable for you.
That makes a lot of sense. So we've got filler phrases and slowing down. Any other tips for avoiding mind blanks?
Here's a big one. Learn vocabulary in context. Don't just memorize lists of words.
Yeah, I've tried that, and it never seems to stick.
That's because words are much easier to remember and use when you learn them within sentences in real-life situations.
So instead of just memorizing the word delicious, we should practice using it in phrases like, this pizza is delicious, or that was a delicious meal.
Exactly. It helps you understand the nuances of the word and how it's actually used in conversation.
So context is key. And speaking of real-life situations, our sources included a great little practice exercise that involves ordering coffee.
Oh, I love that one. It's such a simple but effective way to practice basic conversation skills.
Let's try it. Imagine you're at your favorite coffee shop. How would you order a cappuccino?
Easy. Can I have a cappuccino, please?
Perfect. And what if they ask if you want any milk alternatives?
Do you have almond milk?
See, short, simple, and to the point. And by mentally rehearsing these everyday scenarios, we can boost our confidence and reduce the chances of freezing up in real life.
Exactly. And the more you practice, the more automatic those phrases become.
Okay, so to recap, we've learned 5 key strategies to prevent our minds from going blank when speaking English. Think in English, embrace mistakes, use filler phrases strategically, slow down, and learn vocabulary in context.
And remember, fluency is a journey, not a destination. It's about consistent effort and practice, not perfection.
So don't get discouraged by those occasional mind blanks. They're a natural part of the learning process. Just keep practicing these strategies and you'll find those moments becoming less and less frequent.
And think about it this way. What if you committed to just one of these techniques? Like thinking in English for 5 minutes every day. How much progress could you make in just a few weeks?
It's those small, consistent steps that lead to big results. So keep speaking, keep learning, and most importantly, keep enjoying the journey of becoming a more confident and fluent English speaker.
Absolutely. And who knows, maybe someday you'll even find yourself dreaming in English.
Before we go, we have a small task for you. Tell us in the comments, where are you listening from?
That's it for today. Keep practicing, stay confident, and we'll see you in the next podcast. Take care and happy learning.